We all know Nirvana, right? The band is credited with bringing alternative rock to the mainstream. Suddenly, major labels were searching for any group that could replicate the raw energy and melodic sensibility that made Nirvana so popular. One of the reasons why Smells Like Teen Spirit was so successful and impactful was its relatability. The song resonated with a generation who were feeling disillusioned and lost, trying to find their way in the world. This relatability helped the song connect with a wide audience and became a defining anthem for a generation. But it was the song's measured yet frenetic delivery, coupled with its mellow and upbeat melody, that struck just the right balance for radio stations to air it and for the wider audience to latch onto it. And it's because the boys of Nirvana had mastered extreme dynamics, where a song's verses would be quieter in favor of noisier, explosive choruses. But Nirvana stole that technique from Pixies. In the 1980s, alternative rock was in its infancy, and a conventional approach to songwriting and dynamics in rock music was prevalent. Bands like Bon Jovi, Guns N' Roses, and Van Halen ruled the airwaves with their arena rock anthems that featured soaring choruses, guitar solos, and polished production. The emphasis was on creating a commercially viable sound that could fill stadiums and sell millions of records. In contrast, alternative rock was characterized by its rejection of this approach, favoring a more stripped-down, raw sound that emphasized melody and experimentation. Bands like R.E.M. and The Smiths were pioneers of this movement, but they still adhered to more conventional song structures and dynamics. The Pixies changed all of that.
What they've done is change the format for delivering harder rock. I don't think that format really existed before they came along. It's a cliche, but somebody once said that the Velvet Underground didn't sell many albums, but everybody who bought a Velvet Underground album formed a band. And I would have to suggest that the same thing really applied to the Pixies.
Pixies emerged in 1986 as alternative rock was becoming a force in the music industry. Their four members barely knew each other when they formed in Boston, and only over the years of touring did they develop personal relationships. But their sound was born out of a desire to merge the folk harmonies of Peter, Paul, and Mary.
I dig rock and roll music and I love to get the chance to play and sing it
with the punk energy of Husker Du. It resulted in an uncommon blend of sounds that was uniquely theirs.
It's okay because I've been tired.
With the help of Steve Albini's masterful production, the Pixies' full-length debut Surfer Rosa completely revolutionized alternative rock as we know it. The album featured a mix of soft melodic verses and explosive abrasive choruses.
Your bones got a little machine.
This effectively created a tension and release effect that was both thrilling and unpredictable. Even when their follow-up Doolittle showcased a more polished pop-influenced sound, those dynamics remained. Black Francis, the band's lead singer, called it Dumbo Dynamics because it was a simple, unrefined approach to dynamics. He said that the band only knew how to play loud or quiet, implying that they didn't have any sophisticated understanding of dynamics. They were just relying on energy and instinct. Turns out, abruptly changing tempo or rhythm mid-song kept listeners on their toes. It made for tracks that were more powerful, engaging, and more importantly, fresh.
Well, I'll take turns. I'll get mine too.
The Pixies' pioneering use of extreme dynamics in their music influenced other alternative rock bands to explore new sounds and styles, ultimately giving rise to new genres like grunge, with notable bands such as Nirvana being heavily influenced by their innovative approach to songwriting. And Kurt Cobain didn't shy away from admitting the Pixies' influence on Nirvana's music. He cited Surfer Rosa for having a major influence on his songwriting for Nevermind, stating that he was too afraid to play songs he had written for anybody until he heard the album. After the success of Smells Like Teen Spirit, Cobain admitted that he was basically trying to rip off the Pixies. But Cobain was most impressed with Surfer Rosa's raw and dynamic drum sounds, which were largely shaped by producer Steve Albini's signature recording techniques. Cobain admired Albini's work so much that he enlisted him to produce Nirvana's third and final studio album, In Utero. According to Billy Corgan of the Smashing Pumpkins, Surfer Rosa was a game-changing album that blew him away. He too praised the album's drum sound and revealed that the Smashing Pumpkins used to study it for its technical elements. You see, Albini is the real unsung hero of the Pixies' classic sound. His recording and production methods refused to sugarcoat a band's rougher sounds, leaving room for accidents and mistakes. And it was this abrasive edge that gave Surfer Rosa its raw intensity. It was no surprise that PJ Harvey was drawn to Albini's approach and sought him out to produce her second album, Rid of Me, an album heavily indebted to the Pixies, complete with the trademark loud, quiet dynamic. That same year, Radiohead's most popular song, Creep, had its roots firmly planted in the Pixies' approach, with an unsettling verse that erupts into a loud, menacing chorus.
So fucking special, but I'm a creep.
The Pixies' influence was clearly evident in Weezer's first few entries, with frontman Rivers Cuomo admitting that the band was one of his major inspirations during his formative years in LA. It wasn't long before extreme dynamics began appearing across the alternative rock genre.
Cut it. Black hole sun, won't you come?
This approach to dynamics allowed bands to experiment with different textures and moods within a single track, making their songs sound more complex and sophisticated. And it wasn't just rock music that would be impacted by this trend. The Pixies would become one of the most influential bands of their time, but they never quite achieved the same level of mainstream success as some of their peers. While their music mainly found success in the UK and Europe, they never really took off in America. Their sound may have been a bit too quirky for the mainstream. By 1992, tensions within the band grew and they called it quits just as the mainstream was starting to embrace alternative rock. Their final album was essentially a solo project. Only after their disbandment did the Pixies become legendary. Doolittle kept selling solidly for 20 years, and their music gained a new audience when Where Is My Mind appeared at the end of Fight Club.
Everything's gonna be fine.
As more teens discovered Doolittle and Surfer Rosa, the Pixies began to attain status as a classic rock band, something that would have seemed unlikely just a few years earlier. So while they may not have been the Nirvana of their time, the Pixies left an unforgettable mark on the music world. You can even hear their influence in bands like The Strokes, who kicked off the garage rock revival of the early 2000s. I made a video about it. Subscribe and go check it out. Or you can learn about the making of and find out the true meaning behind Smells Like Teen Spirit. Thanks for watching.